And Keith, again, you get to keep taking victory laps on Palantir, on NVIDIA, on all of it. So Tesla, maybe a little bit different story.
Oh, my goodness. This is one of those stocks that is truly going to be one of the most difficult things many investors have to contend with. But if you take what's happening, you can't obviate the technology. That's why I say today he is probably the Einstein of our time. Betting against Mr. Musk is like betting against Steve Jobs back in the day, Kelly.
Okay, so where are the new models? Where are the cars? This is,
Fair questions.
Do they even bother at this point, or do they just hope to leapfrog into an AI-driven story at this point?
I think that's the easy answer. They hope to leapfrog into AI, but I think the more difficult path is the one that they're actually going to choose, which is they know they've got to release the low-cost models. I think that's probably out there. They know they've got to grow the robo-taxis, but also the robotics, the FSD, the energy deployments. Those things are all continuing to chug ahead. So calling Tesla a car company now, I think, is overrated. Just like calling an Apple a computer company back in the day turned out to be overrated. NVIDIA, a gaming company back in the day, overrated. Amazon, a bookseller. History is filled with examples that are not obvious until after the fact. I think that's what we're dealing with Tesla, and I hope that my confidence is not misplaced.
What's the deal? I mean, with SpaceX, right? There's so many great examples of this man's brain at work in areas arguably even more important than what's going on with Tesla right now. I don't know. How do you do it if you're Tesla and you're up against Chinese overproduction, and state subsidization of this entire, and it's not just them affected, it's the German car makers. It's like the entire globe who has to fend this off now. The EV transition, ironically, allowed China to leapfrog, speaking of that word, into a global leadership position. I don't know how anyone's supposed to compete with that.
Well, I think that having spent a lot of time in mainland China and very familiar with their business models, they're great at catching up and obviating technology. What they're not potentially still up to speed with is the innovation. So that's where the brain that is uniquely Elon Musk, I think, comes into play. So as long as they can continue to innovate, do new, exciting, dynamic things that move our world forward, I think China is perennially going to play catch up. But if that balance shifts, and, to your point, maybe it could. It's close, but I think intellectually it's not there yet.
Well, let's leave it for the time being. Tesla's already, most investors kind of put it to the side of the Mag 7, really. It's so idiosyncratic. Yep. What about Alphabet? What about the rest of big tech, Keith? What about some of those big positions of yours we've been talking about? Any concern with where markets are? Any idea about trimming or rotating or things like that?
Well, there's two sort of thoughts there, right? I'm very happy to see the markets where they are. They've come roaring out of the April lows like we thought that would be the case. I think the Fed still hasn't bazookaed. I think there's still $7 trillion on the sidelines. The institutions are still, for the most part, on the wrong side of this trade. So all of that leads to FOMO season. But I was thrilled to see Alphabet do what it did because I didn't think that was possible, honestly. I'm beginning to think that Pichai needs to be rotated out of the driver's seat. But, if they can pull this off, then good speed, I think I'm going to have to take a hard look at owning that company again for the first time in a long time.